Hey, as we get back into society, let's remember, people will punch you in the fucking mouth.
Welcome back to the Matt Mindset after a extremely long layoff. Apologies on that. Very special guest today, Fury 125 veteran Micah Dynamite White coming off a win.
Let's go.
How's it going, man?
It's going great, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. How did it feel to get that win? I know you were before that. You kind of had a rough start, 1-1 as a pro. Then to get that win, how did you feel?
Man, it was in this sport. We talk about the highest of highs, lowest of lows. That's highest of highs, man. It was. I was calling that fight my redemption fight going into it. Obviously, coming off my first professional loss, and there was no greater feeling. It was sweet, man.
That's awesome. I was watching it on UFC Fight Pass, and the guys kept talking about once it gets your back, it's game over. And I was fingers crossed. I was waiting for it, and you got it finally. And I was like, all right, awesome.
Yeah, man.
So great to see.
He gave me a lot tougher fight in that first round because I was able to get to his back in the first round, but fingers in the gloves and obviously you're fresher in that first round. He was bleeding a lot also that first round, so it was very slippery, different things. But watching it back, man, that third round, my dad even pointed out he like shook his head almost as if, and he didn't even defend the choke at all. He like waited as long as he thought. I don't know if he thought I was gonna let go or stop squeezing,
Right.
but that's the last thing that I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
I'm
no way.
like I'll almost pass out from squeezing so tight
Right.
versus just letting go. I thought he was gonna go out. Finally got the tap. I mean, it felt like a long time choking, but got the win.
You had
It
his
was
back
awesome.
for like 3 minutes, I think, in that last round.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
total back control
Yeah.
for sure. So how did you get started training like as a whole?
So the very beginning
Flashbacks.
started, I was 5 years old. So did the regular soccer, t-ball, 3 years old, 4 years old, whatever. I was always obviously smaller. Used to get bullied a little bit and just, struggle with confidence issues, different stuff, just like any other 5-year-old kid.
Right.
And so parents just put me in karate, Jeet Kune Do more specifically. At our local karate school, it was like 2 minutes from my house, and did that for about 2 years, and I just like fell in love with it. It's like by the time I was 7, I was like, I'm gonna be in the UFC. This I'm gonna do. Like I'm set. Nothing else. And like any other kid, it's like, all right, bud, we'll see whenever we put you in baseball the next year, and then football and this.
Right.
But I've stuck with it, so it's been a journey, man. And so from there, did karate, then I ended up transferring into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's where I first met Professor Travis Took. Was with him in his youth program and stuff, and did that for a good 2 or 3 years competitively. Did all the different tournaments and different things. And then once I got to middle school, I transferred into amateur boxing. Golden Gloves, Junior Olympics, all that regional stuff on the amateur scene, which led me into high school, wrestling all 4 years. I was able to become a 3-time state placer, state finalist, runner-up my senior year, and then now it's just kind of molding in and meshing it all together from the last 18 years. It seems like forever. So it's been a journey, but it feels like we're really just getting going in another sense.
That's so cool to hear about, because you hear about these guys who start off so young like you did, but they start off in something. They may have started off in karate or something like that, but you kind of did everything, and you're part of the new generation of guys who are MMA is itself now a martial art, instead of if your boxing is one, Muay Thai is one, Jiu-Jitsu is one. You're part of the new generation where it's like everything gets tied together.
For sure.
That's so cool to see.
Yeah.
'Cause coming up when I was watching the UFC, or when I was fighting or whatever, if you were really good at one thing and you knew how, you were like, mediocre at something else, like you could defend a takedown well, you probably could keep the
That was
fights.
enough.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Now you
That's all
can't
you
do
did.
that.
No.
Yeah, because you got guys like you who have all this experience in other arts and competing in other arts too.
Yeah. No, it's crazy, man. Like you're saying, it's definitely a new wave. Like I was kind of one. I'm not saying like the first one, but I was definitely the beginning to the start of that, because I remember all the time growing up, I was like, oh man, this young kid, and it was kind of a rare thing to be staying with it, kind of how I was. And even like I always say, I was like good in each discipline. Like for example, with karate first starting out, like I was good. There's kids getting their black belts like that, and I was decent, but I was kind of a little more well rounded here. Then with jujitsu, won a couple tournaments, obviously here and there, but then there's some kids who just like that's all they did, and they're
Yeah.
still doing it. Some of them. Same thing with boxing. There's these kids been boxing since when I started with karate and wrestling, so on and so forth. But where I feel like now that it's benefited me with bringing it all together with MMA, I do feel like I'm pretty good being well rounded, which MMA is mixed martial arts, exactly what you want. But now it's like you're missing out if you're not starting when you're 5 years old, because now
Right.
there's these 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds coming into Main Street and 4 ounce, and they're like putting it on these grown men. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah.
Is this how y'all felt when I was, what I
Right,
mean, this
right,
age?
right.
So the potential of the sport, it's honestly amazing to see from if you take a back seat, like not at a competitive standpoint, but just looking at MMA as a whole, like seeing these kids like growing up and like actually staying with MMA, it's so cool to see, man. Because with us being on ESPN now, and even though that's been a couple years now, it's still fairly new. Like it just shows the limit to our sport is way higher than we might have thought 5, 10, 15 years ago. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to see.
What discipline do you think has helped you the most so far in your MMA career?
Uh,
I'm curious. I think I have an idea.
Yeah.
But I want to know.
Definitely the wrestling.
Cool.
I mean, I think it's just that's like I said, the most recent thing that I specifically focused on. I mean, and each one of those things, the karate, the jiu-jitsu, the boxing, the wrestling, like I went all in. Like I'm all in on it. So with actually being in high school, I'm maturing. I'm actually like becoming like a man in some sense, and like that's all my focus. It was like all in. And I was able to succeed and do some pretty good things, beat people that I wasn't like on paper supposed to beat, those kids that have been wrestling since they're 4, 5, 6 years old. But that's definitely helped me, and I think that's the strongest base in general with MMA, even if I didn't have it, because you really have control on where the fight goes. So obviously majority of people are going to think of it from like a Khabib standpoint. You can
Right.
take people down, impose your will. But what people don't think also is if I'm going against a black belt or someone where I'm like not maybe confident as much that my jujitsu versus jujitsu stands better, I can use my wrestling more on the defensive side of it and keep the fight standing. So people don't really think of it on that defensive side of things. They always think the offense, but you really, as having a good wrestling base, you have the control on where the fight's going to go. Obviously it always starts on the feet, but if you want to take it down, you have that power. If you want to keep it on the feet, you also have that control as well. So it's a huge advantage when you're fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to look at guys at higher levels now, most of the guys who are really, really good have either done one specific thing for a long time
Yep.
or wrestled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Like
it's
boxed
great.
since they were 5 and then they moved to MMA, or
Yeah.
they've wrestled since they were 5
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. Or like they went to Dagestan for like a week,
Right.
and then it's like, you're good.
Yeah,
Give them the
exactly.
UFC belt.
Yeah,
Here, that's
yeah.
it.
Here's a bear, fight him for a
Yeah.
second, and then come back to us.
Exactly.
So did you go? Now we're gonna switch gears here
Cool.
a second or so, but you said from the time that you started, you knew this is what you want to do. So
Mhm.
you went to high school. Did you end up going to college and still training in college, wrestling in college, or?
So, no, I was close. So, I always thought that right out of high school, I was going to go straight to MMA, which is what I ended up doing. But with having the success that I ended up having with wrestling, whenever you get those offers and different things, like, okay, hold on a second. Like, this could be a separate path that we might not have thought of.
Yeah.
And it was a good, bad position to be in. Like I was pretty stressed out. It was either I go and I wrestle for another 4 or 5 years at a legit school and go all in, and that's awesome. But then it's like, do I really want another 4 or 5 years outside of the MMA game? Obviously, I think it would have benefited me with the wrestling and stuff, but I felt like I had a strong enough wrestling base where it's like, okay, I think it's time to start meshing everything together. I don't think I need to focus that strictly on wrestling, because college wrestling is way
Oh, dude.
different than high
Yeah.
school and stuff. So it's not like I can go punch the bag at Planet Fitness on Saturdays
Yeah.
whenever I don't have a tournament
Right.
and, keep my MMA going. It wasn't going to happen. So literally up until I think like literally a month or two before like classes and stuff started, I'm like, you know what? The really problem that made it hard was I could have seen myself being successful both ways. I could
Right.
see myself being a successful collegiate athlete and wrestler, and obviously doing what I do now as a fighter. But it came down to like, what do I want to do? Because I had wrestling coaches in my ear saying, wrestle, get your education. Then I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want to be this freaking broke kid that's
Right.
like, you know what I mean, breaks his hand, never fights again. Now I'm
Right.
like, dang it, you know, I
Which
hear all
is
the
a real possibility.
exactly,
You know?
and I hear all the I told you so's and stuff, which you know, if it comes, it comes. But then it's like, what do I want? And I've always wanted to be a fighter, so not a wrestler. So it's like, you know, let's get this ball rolling, let's do it, and that's what we did right out of high school. I moved out to Kansas City, Missouri, trained at Glory MMA, and that was pretty much my college, so to say. So
Yeah.
and that's how it started.
How did you afford all this?
Uh, just training in general, or like traveling, or what do you mean?
Well, the move to Kansas City,
Mhm.
you know, I'm assuming you weren't a pro at that point in time.
No.
Okay, so you still weren't making any money from MMA
Mhm.
just yet. So what kind of jobs were you doing on the side?
So
anything like that?
my family would help me out a lot.
Oh, that's awesome.
Not like 100%,
Right,
but
of course,
they would
of
help me a
course.
lot. So kind of like I said, that was like my college, exactly how they treated it. It's like my sister, she
Gotcha.
went and got a degree from Arizona State University. Doing MMA is a lot cheaper than going and getting an out-of-state degree. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So it was kind of a favor for them. But I'm very blessed to have that support that I had. So he would, you know, my dad would send me X amount of money to kind of help with like a portion of rent per month. But then, you know, when I first got out there, I was door dashing like crazy just to try to help. I eventually got like a serving job, and that's kind of what's like helped me out the most. I even had that when I first moved to Houston. Serving, it's the most flexible job for
Yeah.
us as fighters. So just little stuff like that. Now, you know, it's coaching and private lessons, but at first it was just like little kind of jobs that worked around my training schedule. Because what my dad didn't want is like, I don't want to help you go and you move out of state just to be like barely training, working a full-time job. Because you could do that here. So
Right.
it's like, if you're going to go do this, we're going to treat this like it's your education, like this your degree, and you're going to train full-time. And if you need, you know, on after practice at nights or on days that you're off or on the weekends, work serving or DoorDash in between the 3 hours of, you know, break between morning session, night session, do it. But like, if you're going to be out there, you're going to be training. It's not just going to be vacation and,
Right.
you know, you finally have your
Once
freedom
a
away
day
from
type
home.
shit,
No.
yeah.
So we were all in. So, but it was definitely a blessing to have their support along with it for sure.
That's so cool to hear, man, because I love when parents are very supportive of that because it helps.
Yeah.
I mean, you figured out what you want to do. They're like, okay, you know. And did your dad give you like an ultimatum? Like, if you didn't do this, you're going to college no matter what. I
No.
asked that because when I went to college,
Yeah.
before I went, my dad was like, listen, you make 1D, you're done. Or
Yeah.
2Ds. He
Yeah.
said, you make 2Ds, you're out. You're going
Right.
to the military. I made 1D my first semester, and I was like,
oh
fuck.
crap! No pressure, right?
Yeah, so I had to study my ass off the rest of the time I was there. So did your dad give you any ultimatums or anything like that?
No, he knows that I love this sport, and he knows where I want to be. I'm very self-driven myself. He was more of like very supportive, but like he's an entrepreneur mindset in himself. Like my sister was the first one to get a college degree out of all of us.
Okay.
My dad, he was the first one in his family just to graduate high school. So every family's different. Like I completely respect in, you know, certain families that are like college no matter what and education. That's for some families that works. For us, it's more of just like
Follow your
we want to
dreams.
be successful, follow your dreams. Like we want to support, and what are we gonna do? You know what I mean? And how can we support that? So mine obviously has been fighting my whole life, so it wasn't really a ultimatum up to that point because it's been literally, you know, my entire life leading up to that point. It was more of a fact of, hey, where are we gonna go? Like at first I was gonna go out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, train with like Jackson Week
Yeah.
and stuff. Then it's like, you know, there's a bunch of big gyms, Florida, American Top Team, this,
Yeah.
that. And I
Syndicate.
there's, I mean, you can name them. Houston, I mean, where I'm at
Right.
now. So it's like, you know, do I
Right,
even need
right.
to move? But I think a part of moving also was good, not just for the gym that I was at, but just really going full in on it, being uncomfortable, sacrificing away from family and relationships and things like that at the time of like, you are a fighter. Like, we love you, we support you, but it's like you kind of kick you out the nest a little bit, like you got to do this. And I wanted it, you know, so it was perfect.
That's awesome. Plus, you got to be kind of a little crazy to go
Yeah.
out there and just do that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
For sure.
I mean that in the best way
Yeah.
possible.
No,
but, like,
definitely.
to be the best at anything, you have to kind of put your mind in another place.
Yeah.
To, you know, push everything to a side to do this one thing.
Yeah.
I've always admired people like that. I think that's great.
Yeah. Thank you. And I've
You're
had
welcome.
plenty of those people. I've had plenty of people be like, are you sure? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it's normal to question because I don't have a normal route. I don't have
Right.
a regular life of whatever, which is I'm very, very blessed and aware of that. But it's on me to realize that because some kids, they have those blessings, they just think it's like normal, like it just comes and it's like they're entitled and it's whatever. It's like, no, I know this could end today. Like God forbid something happen, like this is all can end. But it's with this game, we have such a small window. You think of longest careers, to whatever 40, like successfully. Normally mid 30s, usually lower 30s. So it's like you have a very small window to capitalize on. So it's really understanding the blessings that I have and not letting them go to waste. Like striking it while it's hot, keeping that ball rolling. So that's what we're trying to do.
That's awesome. And I mean, whenever the fighters come up and like even local guys will be in their 30s, whatever, I'm like, man, he's getting up there. I mean, they're my age, they're 34, whatever. And someone will be like, he's not old. I'm like, for a fighter, he's getting
absolutely.
Up there.
And you see the guys that do it.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Tyson just got in there, but it's like, who wants to look like that in the ring, So it's like.
Rigged or no? What do you think?
Ooh. I don't know. Could be. I don't see why it would be rigged. I just think it was a show all the way around, man, and they do a good job of hyping it up because they had me sold. I'll tell you, man, those Netflix little things. I'm like, oh crap, Mike Tyson's back. He just lost 40 years of age, but then it starts, and then everyone's just like,
fuck,
man, and you freaking see his butt cheeks before and stuff. I'm like, bro, this dude's a legend. No one had to see all that, dude.
That was
like,
so funny. I didn't think that was real at first when I saw it. I'm like, oh, they CGI'd that or whatever.
And they let it go on for so long.
I was like, yo, damn, Mike, we didn't need to know you like that.
Like, cut it off. And everyone was just like, act like it was okay.
He just walked up in the
like, you just see the people in the back, and like his coaches are just like watching him, like, bro, put some pants on, dog.
You got shorts for a reason, my guy.
Like, can y'all give him, like, and y'all know he was like that before you did the interview. Like, hey, you might want to, oh, no, like, I'm good. Like, come on,
Should've just backpedaled.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
But, yeah, I mean, it's great to see, parents and stuff like that supporting their kids. Like, even if one day I'm sure you decided, I don't want to do this anymore, because maybe you like, this is a hypothetical scenario, of course. Like, maybe if you decided that after the move you realized how hard it is, and you're like, all right, I don't want to do this. I'm sure your family would be like, okay, cool, well, let's help you.
Yeah, what's next?
Right.
Yeah,
and that's awesome, man. I love that
for sure.
So, what's your training schedule and regiment like during your camps?
So as of now, I'm splitting majority of my camps between Main Street and 4 Ounce. I'm back when I was at Glory, it was all under the same roof, but we'd have morning practice, night practice, and then it's on you to get your runs in and things like that. So I try to keep a similar schedule to where I'll usually go to Main Street in the mornings, and then 4 Ounce at night. So I'm kind of like a fly on the wall, chameleon all over the place. Like, I'll go to Team Took Thursday mornings instead of Main Street, get my own strength and condition in. Then sometimes got to get there early and get pads in with Coach Bob and things like that. But usually it's like Main Street in the morning, 4 Ounce at night, or I'm also a wrestling coach. And so I'm either at 4 Ounce or maybe I'm, wrestling with the high schoolers or something like that too. But it's definitely at least 2 a days. And then if I'm running in between or after in the morning, whatever, it all gets in. So it ramps up. It's a lot for sure.
Yeah. What about outside of camp? What do you keep the same camp like schedule, or do you dial it down some?
Close as far as the routine of like morning and night, but it'll switch up. So for example, like Tuesdays, instead of going to Main Street in the morning like I do during camp and 4 Ounce at night, I'll lift in the morning and then go to 4 Ounce at night, right? So like try to take advantage of not needing as much cardio and reps of the MMA side when we're out of camp, but then now focus on putting on the sides and the muscle things that you can't really focus on when you're in camp, right? And then sometimes it's like you can be a normal human. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you can go out and do stuff.
Yeah, like for example,
a nice meal.
Exactly. Like go on some dates with the girlfriend and things. Like Wednesday nights, for example, like we don't have wrestling practice like ever, and like we're off on Wednesdays. So normally it's like, all right, sparring in the morning, Main Street Wednesdays, and then a hard double session at 4 Ounce at night Wednesdays. But then sometimes it's like, okay, wait a second. If my family's doing something Wednesday night, normally it's like, hey, sorry, I got practice. Take off for practice, whatever, and go enjoy. Like my sister's birthday was just this past Wednesday on the 18th. Go have a birthday dinner for her, right?
Happy birthday, Micah's sister.
Let's go. Shout out Ariana. You know what I mean? So it's things like that you know, it's similar schedule. It just gets you just instead of this, I'm here. This, I'm here. Here. You know, it just makes it easier. You know, all around to fill things in, take things out whenever you're on like a routine versus just waking up like, what do I feel like doing today?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's easy, especially being a fighter and you know, like I still living at home and things like that. Just trying to do my thing. It's like you can easily be like, I don't feel like practicing
Right.
today. I'm just gonna chill.
Right.
And then it's like 3 o'clock, and then you're like,
Fuck.
okay, right?
Yeah.
So try to stick to some kind of routine, and then it's like, all right, if you miss something, then you got to make it up. Like if I do miss the morning, then you got to do double at night, whatever. You know, it just kind of makes it easier. Like if you have the kind of checks to tick in, if you didn't do it in the morning, well, you better check it at night. Just
Right.
as long as it gets checked, you're good. So just things like that.
That's awesome. What's your when you're doing this? You said you mix in kind of some strength and conditioning. I've talked to some guys who don't ever do strength and conditioning, but I've talked to other guys who, or guys and girls who put a big emphasis on strength and conditioning. What's
Right.
your takes on it?
I think
In
it's
camp and out of camp.
I think it's definitely important. Out of camp, it's definitely more lifting for me focused. I think a lot of the strength conditioning that people don't realize comes with what we do. I mean, think about it. Instead of squatting with the barbell, you're lifting people up, you're picking people up in double X and things like that. So a lot of it comes with just what we do, but the more you could emphasize it, like for example, like my lifting routine, I lift on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Lifetime or whatever. I've worked with trainers and stuff in the past that have given me a pretty simple but effective routine, and I just roll with it, rock with it. In camp, a lot of it ends up just being I take majority of the lifting out. First 2 or 3 weeks, I might like adjust it and do higher reps, lower weight. But then honestly, the last 4 or 5 weeks, I'm like not lifting at all usually. Because again, that strength's kind of come in with the practicing, but then I'll add in the runs and the pad sessions before class, like that all adds up. But like what we do is really strength and conditioning. It's just you have to find the balance of like cranking it up in camp because you have to be different and do something more, but also not doing too much to where now you're at a deficit of when it's time to practice. Oh, coach, I just went on a 10-mile run at 5 in the morning. Well, it's like, okay, good job, but now you look like crap during practice. So I can't even really like, have a good judgment of if you're in good shape or not because you're not even at your 100%. Right. So you have to find the balance. And, sometimes you're going to be 90, 80, 70 on certain days, but overall having that good balance of just increasing week by week, getting in better shape. And, for some people it takes more, some people it doesn't. It just depends.
Do you have specific cardio sessions you do to up your cardio? Because have you ever been gassed in a fight?
Yes.
It's not a good feeling.
Definitely.
Right?
I mean, I had the flu my last fight. I was sick the fight before that. So even like being in shape, you can
you're zapped.
Catch that runny nose, and then it's like no matter how much cardio you've done, you're tired.
Right.
But definitely how much you do leading up helps a ton.
Because I loved swimming. I got gassed in one fight, and I was like, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
So I started swimming. Like
I love
religiously.
swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like that was like the best form of cardio. Besides
100%.
like running and HIIT cardio.
Yeah. For me, it's like that interval training. So whether you're doing sprints, whether it's swimming or whatever it is, hard wrestling goes, it's get that heart rate spiked for the sprints. Because like one thing that wrestling helped with a lot is, and the swimming helped, is like we hold our breath a lot. So you won't even be out of shape, but you get in a scramble and then you start holding your and then you're like, okay. And then it's like you're in shape, but you're not breathing, right? So sometimes what the swimming has learned, like I don't always go like super fast, but just find the pace. 1, 2, 3, breathe. One. So now your body gets the rhythm of doing hard work, cardio work, but it's learning to breathe systematically, consistently, and then you pick it up. But that's helped a lot. But then it's like if you sprint 30 seconds or on an aerodyne bike, whatever it is that you're doing, and then short rest, recover, high level sprints. Like people try to do 100 sprints on the track, and it's like, dude,
no.
By the 11th one, you're jogging, so it's not even it. So taking enough time to rest and get truly 100% sprints or swimming or whatever it is that you're doing in that time frame, that's what like maximizes the potential of actually you getting in better shape.
Maximum effort for sure.
Yep.
And getting, like you said, getting the heart. You only get a minute in between rounds.
Yeah.
So it's like if you know you can recover in 30 seconds, the other half you're going to be fresh.
Yes. And you could actually like listen and drink
Right.
water and be like alert. You're not just like
Follow instructions. Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
because if you do that for a
Yeah.
minute, it's like, well, okay, good
Good
luck.
job, yeah.
Go do it again.
Right.
Like,
I don't know what you said, Coach, but I'm going to try.
Yeah, it's like if you're talking to me and I'm just like, slumped over, it'll be like, all right,
Yeah.
you're good.
Just keep your hands up. And
yeah,
Throw the jab.
if you want to,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Move your head off center line.
Seriously.
So you are a 125er, which
Yep.
is a little bit significantly on the smaller end. than
The
a lot.
smallest.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's your diet like, and what's your weight cuts like for little? I mean, what do you walk around at?
So as of recently, I've finally been able to stick like that 140 mark.
Okay.
When I first started fighting, man, because I wrestled at 113 my freshman, sophomore, junior year, 120 my senior year. So I was walking around like 128,
Oh, wow.
130 on a fat day. And so they're like, oh, Micah, like, how's the cut going? I'm like, dude, I just finished practice at 126.
Yeah, I'm
like,
good.
I could go to weigh-ins right now. Like, you know? But obviously, I just turned 22, so it's just like slowly developing and that man body slowly coming on, more of the lifting and stuff. So I've usually, like my last cut, I cut from like 135, I believe, like where the water cut started. Like I'm up and down during camp. Out of camp, I splurge pretty bad. I
Yeah.
kind of eat whatever I want. But like if I don't, the weight just stays so low. So it's enough like of just trying to eat a lot and to where obviously I'm training all around. So I can't just like go eat McDonald's right before training
Right.
and then whatever, I'll throw up. So like I'm eating a lot, but not like stupid to where I can't train, at a good level. But during camp, it still has to be eating a lot, but then it's a lot of the healthier foods, right? So like a lot more chicken and rice or salmon, whatever it is. I did a couple of like the My Fit Foods meals and stuff this last fight, but like the bigger portion one. So like still eating a lot, just like the healthier stuff. And then that last week, it actually gets trimmed up pretty good, but nothing like, these guys that are cutting 20, 30 pounds. Obviously, each fight going forward is going to be my biggest cut up until that point because my body is slowly growing.
Yeah.
But we've been able to do it pretty good leading up to this point. So
How much water do you cut?
so that last one we cut about 10 because I cut I think like 6 or 7 like the first night, woke up, did like another 3 the next day, and then I was right there at 126. It just kind of like depends, but like where I had to adjust was like with wrestling, I'd have to be on weight the night before because you're waking up at 5 a.m. to go get on the school bus to go to a tournament and you don't have time to cut weight. And I did that for the first couple of my fights, and it's like, man, you get zero sleep. I mean, it'll be like 20, 30 minutes total, and it's like you'll crash for 2 minutes and then you wake up thinking it's like morning time and it's like it's been 10 minutes. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
The worst.
Yeah, and it's just, learning the longer time, dehydrating, all that different stuff, and just kind of like maturing in the game. It's like, okay, we can't do this anymore. I'll just kind of habit. That's how I used to always cut weight. But now I'll get a good amount off the night before, try to get like at least to 130. Usually that night, 130, 131, and then knock out the rest, wake up early, because weigh-in's usually like 9 a.m., wake up at whatever, 5, 6 a.m., get the last little bit off, and then, now I'm only talking about 30 minutes to an hour dehydrated versus, 12 hours or whatever it is.
Are you one of those guys that has to do the like sodium depletion, or do you just do hot baths?
I usually just try to stick to like the bath. I'll like go to like Lifetime and just like hop in the hot tub or whatever. I used to be like really trying to work it off like pads and jump rope and running, but then like I'd really feel it in my legs and my body be like sore, and it's like I can't go get like a massage or something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we're fighting today. So I've just really tried to just sit. I don't really like the sauna too much. I mean, it's just like a human oven when you think about it. Like it freaking sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have to do it, you have to do it. It's
does
not like, wimping out about it or being that way. But if I can, have my head above the water, just like chill in the tub, do 20, 30 minutes and just in and out and kind of, it's a lot easier to kind of like feel the range of like how's my head feeling? Like when you're in that sauna, it's like when you first get in there, you're like, this sucks.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
Instantly.
But you know, the first 5-10 minutes in the hot tub is just like if we were to go sit in the hot tub right now, like that's a normal human thing. Like
Right.
you go in the sauna, people are going in there to like die. You know what I mean?
People
like
are going there for 15 minutes. They're out for the rest of the day.
and they're done.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they're chugging water while they're doing
Yeah.
it. So sitting in the hot tub, it's a little normal thing. Like people don't even realize that, you know, they'll be really thirsty after the drink of water because you are sweating and losing weight in
Yeah.
there. So that's the difference. So like even like that fight week, I'll try to like sit in like the hot tub at home or things like that, just with the family and stuff, but like drinking water. So like my body's getting used to the process, but like I'm not killing myself every night. I'm not weight cutting every night. But then just that last time, obviously you're not rehydrating it back in. You go step on the scale and you're good. So
Yeah, because I've talked to some guys who are cutting like 20 pounds of water, but they're also taking all the sodium out
yeah,
and stuff like that.
for sure. It'll be like, all right, Tuesday, Wednesday, depending on how much weight you have, it's like no more sodium,
Yeah.
right? And then they're water loading, and it comes down to like a science. And I think maybe not this fight, but maybe like one or two more after that, we'll have to start being, hopefully, if my, you know, routine and my
Yeah.
weight keeps increasing, which is kind of like everyone else, like, why the heck would you want a big weight cut? But when I'm fighting these guys that are 150, 160, like,
Yeah,
it's a disadvantage, you know? So it's have to get my weight up to eliminate that as much as possible,
Right.
you know?
I mean, you got a few more years before the old man strength kicks in.
Yeah,
you know
for
what
sure.
I'm saying? So,
For sure.
So that's positive.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we just talked about the weight cuts for smaller guys.
Yeah.
You've been in the game for quite a long time as far
Mhm.
as kickboxing, boxing,
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, all that stuff. You're 22 now. Do you have any advice for guys who are starting out, like who listen to, let's say they listen to it and they were in your position as a teenager?
Yeah.
Even though you were just a teenager, like
Yeah,
2 years
yeah,
ago.
right. Literally,
Yeah.
the good old days,
Yeah.
man.
You're in them, my friend. You
Yeah,
are in
right.
them right now.
Yeah,
Do you have any advice for guys, you know, wondering, okay, how am I going to do this?
yeah,
And to succeed, to get to where you are?
for sure. I think the biggest thing, man, is just keeping the passion there. You know, with what we do, it's hard. This isn't like going to the casino and freaking hitting the lottery. You know, like this, it takes work. You know, and it's easy during the camps and during the training to like. I mean, you see like Muhammad Ali. Like I hated every moment of training, but you know, you work and you become like a champion, and then that's the great success. So you have to have something to train for. You can't just go in with an idle mind because eventually you're gonna have that bad day or you're gonna get rocked in sparring, whatever it is. You're like, this sport sucks. Why
Yeah.
am I doing this? And you have to be the one to answer that question. Like, I can't ask you why I fight. I can't ask, you know, my dad, even though he's been my number one guy and right there the whole ride. I can't ask him why I want to fight because at the end of the day, he's like, you have to be able to answer that. And so I think whatever you do, it's like that. You know, you have to have a passion of some sort in what you're investing your time into. You know, if you have the job to pay the bills, you got to do some things. You know, you got to man up. You got to do it. You got to do it. But if it comes to like a sport like this or a career like this or anything relative, you have to have that passion for it because it's not always gonna be easy. You know, and the ones who stick it out are usually the ones that will succeed in the long run. You know.
Yeah. What do you do on days that you don't want to train? I know most guys. I know the answer to this.
Yeah.
But like, foreshadowing here, the answer is going to be just fucking go.
Yeah.
You know.
You just got to do it.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Some guys have such difficulty
Yeah.
with just going,
right.
and most of the time I found getting there is sometimes the hardest part.
Yeah, no,
Just-
definitely.
yeah.
That is the hardest part because every single time, like say for like this morning, literally, because like I said, I'm a wrestling coach. We had a Saturday morning, 10 to 12 a.m. practice because the kids, you know, it's their holiday break, whatever,
Yeah.
Christmas and stuff. 4 kids showed up, and we had 25 or 30 in the room when we announced it. And it's like, hey, who would be there on Saturday? What time y'all want? Some kids, 8, 9. Y'all ain't rolling out of bed. And then we got 4 kids that showed up, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of, oh, if you always want it or not, but like when it comes time to it, how are you going to do it? And that goes kind of back to what I was saying before is like, why am I doing this? Like some of those mornings, I do not want to go up and train, but it's like my opponent's training. And it's like,
Yeah.
you're
The
not-
guilt sets in.
you're not going to outdo
Yeah.
me, right? And then it's like, oh, I slept in. Oh, what happened? You know, you weren't feeling good. What's up? Like, oh, no, I just didn't feel like it. It's like, oh, okay. And you're like,
All right.
all right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, it's those things like you said, like, yeah, you just have to do it. But that's why you have to have like that external why of why you want to do it. Because, like I said, if you're just doing it because it's fun and it's whatever, you're going to not have any other reason to not go train. Oh, I'm tired today, so I'm going to sleep in and I'll train tomorrow. And that's fine for some people. But if you have like that goal or that passion or that drive of why you're doing it, that's what kicks in. And it's like yesterday morning, Friday morning, I did not want to get up to train. I was snoozing that alarm over and over and over. My dad coming in like, Micah, your alarm, bro. Like, come on. I'm snooze. But then it's like, bro, probably the last hard training of the weekend, and then we're going to have Christmas Eve and Christmas off. And it's like, let's do it. And then we rock it. And it was a great practice. It was awesome, And it's not like that every day, but some days, we're human. I wish I can sit here and be like, no, I love training. Like, training number one.
Train,
like,
sleep,
exactly. And, and I do love training. It's awesome. But some days we don't. And that's just being real. And you just have to be able to just do it. And you always leave feeling better than you came in. Always. No matter how bad you want to. Like, my dad, he was really big on that with, like, jiu-jitsu. He's like, same thing. Works a full-time job. He's got freaking kids, a wife, and all this different stuff to deal with. But he's like, I do not want to go jiu-jitsu today. This is my only morning to chill. I got business meetings tomorrow. I was up late last night. But then it's like you leave and you're just like, oh, man, let's go. Felt good. You get that sweat going, something about that adrenaline working. You sub somebody or whatever. You're like, let's go, and it's like,
endorphins kick in.
You're like, well, where was that energy this morning, right?
Right.
But it's like, that's the beauty of it, It's like when you do it, it's just like when people go work out at, whatever, Lifetime Fitness or something too. It's like, I don't want to go. But when you leave, you're like, all right, man, let's go. And then you feel accomplished and you're rocking, especially if it's like a morning practice or something. It's like, now your day's kind of rolling. It's like, you feel a lot better. So
I also feel like if you have a set routine, you don't have to put as much thought into it.
Right.
If you go to jiu-jitsu every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever you go, and Monday night rolls around, and you're like, fuck, man, I really don't want to train today. But I'm just gonna pack my stuff.
That's what
in
it
the
is.
Truck. And you don't have that cognitive process of thinking why you don't want to go.
Just go.
You just go.
Just
right?
go. Yeah.
And so like that's one thing that has worked for me in the past. Because I'm just like you, man. We're both human. So there's been several days where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do shit around the house or whatever. But like, you get into this. You get into this regiment, this habit, this no thought, and you just do it. And by the time you're done, you're like, oh, I didn't even think about doing this. I'm already here. So same with going to training. You don't think about it. You just show up, and then when you get to the gym, you're like, oh, I'm not leaving now. So I'm in the parking lot.
Yeah, I saw you pull up. Well, no, you can't turn around now. You're like, dang, man.
Yeah. So when is your next fight?
I actually just got this scheduled, I think less than 24 hours ago, either yesterday or 2 days ago. It'll be March 23rd. So got a good amount of time, but enough time to enjoy the holidays. But come January, start picking it up just a little bit, and then later January, all right, let's pick up camp a little bit. So it's a good amount of time, but at least it's like something on the calendar. So it'll be for Fury, March 23rd, and so we still got a good amount of ways away, but it's exciting to have something. There's like that little thing in the back of your mind to be like, all right, like one of those days where you don't want to. It's like I'm not in camp, but it's like, hey, we're almost there, and you don't want to be in camp like completely just out of shape, like if you haven't been training. So it's like the more you can kind of do now, the better you'll feel when you start, getting shark tanked and having to go on extra runs and pads and all that crap that sucks. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's way easier to do that with being in semi shape than being like out of shape off not being in camp. God,
it's also way easier to do it when you're on the outside.
When you're the shark,
when you're not the guy,
when you are the shark, not in the tank. Absolutely, I know. We were just getting my teammate Alden ready for his title fight for Fury 100, and it was me and another guy, and we were pretty much like just switching back and forth, trying to push him. And I'm like, man, I do not want to be him right now. And he rocked it, and he did awesome. But it's like, God, it sucks. God, like I do not miss being in that position. Then when you're in it, you're in it. You don't think twice.
No choice.
You can't question it. Like I'm gonna tell Dana Pineda, like, nah, I'm good.
Right, of course, yeah.
I'm good. I'll hit the bag. I don't need all that. Trust me, I'm in shape. Like, no, you got to do it. So
you ever been Shark Tank twice in one day? Once at Main Street, once at 4 ounce?
Yes.
Damn.
A lot. Well, not as much. Like I wouldn't call it like Shark Tank. Like in the morning, we'll do like our individual rounds, where it's pretty much Shark Tank because I'm getting like a new person each round, and then go have a freaking. That's awesome about my schedule, but what sucks the most is 4 ounce doesn't really train their pros during the day. Like everyone works during the day and then they all get together at night. Main Street, their pro MMA classes in the mornings. They have like other classes stuff at night. Like that's the main pro MMA's at 10 a.m. Main Street. So I have both classes like hardest sessions in the same day. So I'll go to 4 ounce and people be like, dang, Micah, like, you good, bro? Like, you're
understand,
looking
my ass
okay.
kicked
I'm
earlier
like,
today.
dog, I've already done I did my individual rounds. I did an hour worth of sparring after. I am dead. And I just
Yeah.
went an hour, 15 minutes in stupid traffic to get here. Like, I'm okay. I just, but yeah, it's a part of it. But that's where it's like, it gives you that edge up. Like the guy I'm fighting, whoever, like they're not doing this, you know what I mean? And so it helps with the mental a lot too.
Yeah. Do you have any plans for? I know everyone that I've talked to, and every local guy that I ask this to has the same plan. But do you think you're on the cusp of getting to the next level? I mean, you're coming off a pretty decisive. I mean, a rear naked choke victory. You're 2-1 now as a pro. So what do you think's going to happen in the next couple years, couple fights?
I think it all just depends, right? And there's different parts of me that answers this question. Like, I would say yes and no. I would say yes in the fact of like, now if I'm 3-0, it's like, let's go. You know what I mean? We're running. But I really needed that loss as a fact of which I have back and forth in my head of I don't obviously think I lost that fight, but that's a whole nother conversation to be had. But it was a good reset of like, hey, like I had the perfect path, right? Going from amateur to professional. We're going to do this and this. It's going to be our record. We're going to get contender series, yada, yada, yada.
You held the belt as the amateur?
Held the belt,
Yeah.
defended it.
Yeah.
But now it's like, it's kind of reset everything of let's take this one fight at a time, right? So me being realistic, I obviously in the next 2 years, fights go well record-wise and the amount of avenues that we have nowadays to get to the UFC, absolutely. I could see myself getting contender series fight, knocking that off the bucket list and getting that contract. But then there's also a side of me that's like, dude, don't get overzealous. That crap doesn't matter right now. Like, as of right this moment, March 23rd is the only thing that matters. Because before, when I was 1-0, like, that was the path. It's like this, and it's like, okay, well then what if that doesn't work?
Shit
So now
got
it's like,
derailed for a
okay,
second. Yeah.
So now it's like, you know what, forget all the extra stuff. And you see these other guys that you might have been around the same point with, and then they're just ringing them off. So it's like they'll be probably gone before you are. So it's like, it's more of just like focusing on myself, one fight at a time. And then I think instead of like looking too far ahead and then getting lost, versus just like keeping my nose on the ground, is going, I'll look up and also be like, oh, we're here, you know? So that's kind of the mentality that I'm keeping. But, God willing and everything goes well, I definitely think in like the next 2 years we could have like that contender series short notice kind of shot, just with having 3 to 4 fights a year. And with nowadays, you get a good record. That's all it, takes. Get your finishes, you get your record right, and you get at least an opportunity, you know, and then it's on me, obviously, once you get the opportunity to rock it out. So
yeah, I mean, Yachty just wrecked his Dana White contender series fight.
Exactly.
So, and, it helps being around those caliber of guys.
For
'cause,
sure.
Like, you see them and you're like, man, that's what I want to do.
For sure.
But I understand. I can imagine it's hard not to get the focus derailed.
Yeah.
From March 23rd is first.
Yeah.
First and foremost is this. Then once we win this, then we can go on to this.
Yeah.
For
sure.
That's, man, I mean, I've seen you fight. You're very skilled.
Thank you.
So, all the Main Street guys, all the 4-ounce guys that have been around, they're all monsters.
Right.
And so they've all got such good gyms. There's so many good gyms in Houston now.
Yeah.
That it's not just one.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
got Main Street, you got War, you got 4-ounce, you got Team Took.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
It's crazy to see.
Yeah, Gracie
Houston
Baja, the Woodlands. I mean,
right.
there's a bunch. Yeah. And I think where I'm trying to get it, man, is like it's so divided. And like I said, like I've had my first fight when I was 17, but I've been going to these shows since I was 7, 8 years old, like watching these first ever, Garcia Promotions and freaking Lone Star Beatdown, whatever shows, like at the Humble Civic Center, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like it used to always be like, oh, who's the baddest in Houston? But it's like, dude, who cares?
Right.
Like, you get to this next level, which I think before it was a lot harder to get to the next level. So it's like you're only focused on these
Oh.
guys. But I'm like, dude, you're one fight away, contender series or whatever, to fighting someone from freaking Russia,
Right.
Brazil, Australia. You know, the list goes on and on. Like, so who cares who's 45 minutes away? Like, if anything, we should be like using each other, like Team Houston, because forget Houston, then you have Texas, San
Yeah.
Antonio, Austin. There's some killers, right? Like all around Texas. Then you talk about, okay, being the best in Texas. Then it's like, all right, well, now we got the whole United States. Now you got American top team in Florida. Now you got this team. Now you got all these different whatevers. Now it's like, okay. And we're worried about the gym that's 30 minutes away.
Right.
You know, like, why don't we take these regional guys, we work together, drop the ego a little bit, and we all make it. And now
Yeah.
we're all battling against, you know, like anytime I see someone from Houston, Texas, and I mean, eventually sometimes America,
Yeah.
you know, with some of those
Yeah,
title
yeah.
fights and stuff, it's like, let's go.
Yeah,
You root for
yeah.
that. So it's like, let's work together, not be so like divided. Like, let's get some of these best guys in Houston. Let's get our heads out of our butts a little bit and drop the ego a little bit. And like, we can all make it. It doesn't have to be like, all right, me first. Like, shoot, go ahead. I want to make to the UFC, and I want to have a successful career, and I want to do my thing. I don't need to do it this year. I don't care when it is. Like, that's what I want to do. And so whenever it happens, it happens. Like, and I even had like, it's hard not to compare yourself. Like, even like, for example, Josh Van, he's like a year and a half older than me,
Yeah.
but he's freaking rocking it.
Dude,
you know,
he
he's freaking ranked
crushed
in the
it.
top
Yeah.
15. He had his first, you know, he's fighting an MSG, Sphere, like
Yeah.
the dream as a fighter, and he's just now in the UFC. It's awesome to see. But then also it's like, dang, like, am I doing something wrong? It's whatever. But then you have to realize, like, no, that's his path.
Right.
Like, my path is going to be different. My path's going to be different than yours. My path's going to be different than this person, whatever. So it's like, as long as we can work together on our paths and all get to the same destination, let's do it. Like, why
Yeah.
try to like pull people back and slingshot yourself forward? Like, who cares, man? And like, the reality is that, you know, sometimes we might have to fight each other, whatever, but like, let it be for a title fight, or let it be, you know, whatever, to where it's not like we're knocking each other off here, and then now it's like, all right, well, screw you got to win 6 more, and now
Yeah.
I get my shot. Like, when we can all make it and all have, you know, successful careers, like, there's so many people to fight. Like, MMA is growing by the second, and so
Right.
it's like, why not work together and get there with our neighbors? You know what I mean? When
Yeah,
you think
yeah.
about it, when you talk about Brazil and China and
Right.
Russia,
They're-
like,
yeah.
these dudes are our neighbors practically. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I think the Houston community has grown, but it's still very divided in certain ways, and I think we can be better without that division. You know?
I just think it has to do with, you know, you train all over the place
Mhm.
and you get comfortable with, like, let's say Coach Bob, I
Yeah.
don't think he would ever do this, but
Mhm.
let's say he's like, you want to fight a guy from 4 ounce, and you know, you said yes.
Mhm.
Again, not gonna
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
But that would cause so much animosity, I think, between those
Absolutely.
two gyms.
For sure.
You know, and I think that's one of the reasons why guys are kind of skeptical about fighting whoever, just because they do cross train a lot now, like
Yeah.
you. And you can't, like, if you do that, you know, if you fight a guy from here, then it's like, why are you fucking us like this?
Yeah.
You know, you train with all of us before, we like you, we're
Right.
boys, and then you're gonna go fight one of our dudes. and,
Yep.
like, possibly
You're like,
hurt him.
were you scheming the whole time?
Right, right.
What was your really intention behind it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
gets messy. Yeah.
So I think that's the blanketed reason why
Mhm.
it's easier to separate yourself.
Yeah, well, for sure. And then on the opposite end of why people don't want to train, that, oh, well, what if I have to fight
Right.
him? Like, dog, like, why? Why we have to fight? And if we do fight, okay, let's do it in the UFC for 10 bands, not
Yeah.
freaking $500, $1,000. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, if we are gonna fight each other, if we are gonna display our skills, let's put it on in front of the world, and let's get paid, and let's do it, and it be respect. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be, you know, a escapade, whatever.
Right,
Like, you
right.
know, and it's no disrespect to that at all. Like,
No, of
whatever.
course not,
But
yeah.
it's just a fact of like, you got to think bigger picture. Everyone thinks like, oh, just this next one. Oh, well, this guy's doing really good too, and this guy just got a knockout. Like, dog, relax. Like, there's so many people to fight, especially now with Fury being so big as they
Yeah.
are.
The
They're
fear, man.
bringing people in,
Yeah.
man, from Colorado and all these different places to fight. So it's like, we're gonna find the fights. It's not like you're gonna run out of people to fight. Like, there's people all over the country, all over the world that want to fight, right? So it doesn't have to just be this next guy that you see on the same card. Like, obviously, it's a lot fresher on the mind because, yeah, you're the same weight class, you're both winning, whatever, but it doesn't have to be that way all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, I definitely agree with you. It's just, it's hard differentiating the gyms and who you're going to fight. And
Yeah.
especially, I mean, no matter what, you're going to find a guy. You could get a guy from Dallas, San Antonio, who you've never met before in your
Yeah.
life, but I think the fight game is one of those. It's kind of it's sensitive.
Yeah.
Because if you do fight someone you know, and you do hurt them or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then that could skew the relationship. It could
Yeah.
skew the relationship with their gym if you go
For
go
sure.
over there and cross train or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of if, ands, maybes, whatever.
Yeah. It's a
So,
weird game we play, man, for sure.
Yeah,
But,
you can't play the fight game, man. That's one thing.
yeah. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough for sure.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you March 23rd. I'm going to hand the mic over to you if you have
Let's
any
go.
call-outs, shout-outs, anything you want to say.
Yeah,
Go for it.
I'll save the call outs for another day. No, man, thank you so much for having me. It's cool. I just, again, like, I think it's very important, like, for whoever is watching, listening, like, whatever you want to do, just like do it, and if you have that passion towards something, like, just go for it. We have such a small window in this game, but also just in life, to where it's like, I'm really big on, like, trying not to live life with regrets, so it's like, and that goes in so many different aspects, like the people you have in your life. I've come to realization about a lot of this kind of stuff lately of, like, you're not going to be around forever, so do what you want to do. If you have little beefs and different stupid stuff with family members or friendships that, like, is kind of petty, like, you don't know, anything can happen, and the last thing you want is, like, that regret of being like, dang, like, was that whatever happened, like, really worth not being, having all that regret and stuff. So just whatever you want to do, man, or whatever different things, like, just do it. Just go for it. We live such a short life, and it's just like, go for it. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, thanks for having me. Micah Dynamite on Instagram. I got some merch and stuff in my bio and just different things. But yeah, I'm excited to be back in the cage sooner than later and go into this new year strong. I'm excited.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on again. Thanks a lot. We've been trying to get you on for so long.
Yeah.
Finally, we'll be able to make it
Hey,
work,
we made it happen, man.
I
It
appreciate
works.
you coming on, taking the time out of your day. This has been the Matt Mindset. I'm Drew Elder, and I hope everyone has a great day.
This what the city been wanting. I know y'all patiently waiting. I do this shit in my sleep, so I had to get back to basics. Got the city tuned in, cause they know I'm going for greatness. They know I'm holding the crown, and they know I'm coming to take it.